What's up YouTube, Capital G here, looking at some new Magibullet trap cards coming out in Spirit Warriors, and these cards are actually pretty damn useful, guys. I think that this deck is going to be incredibly powerful, especially considering it is now getting the first ever counter trap that can be used straight from your hand during either player's turn. This deck is just fucking out of control at this point, and obviously Magibullet the Destructor has been banned for forever, so I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a card that is in a league of its own, just from a standpoint of how you can activate it and how the card actually functions and whatnot. So it's interesting because I was really excited about Magibullets because I looked at them and you guys know I was like, man, this is awesome. You can use trap cards from your hand and that is really cool. You can use it during your opponent's turn and everything. But now my opinion on them has just kind of changed. It's like if you guys have ever played the fighting game Injustice 2. It's the DC Comics fighting game where all the superheroes are fighting against each other, made by the same people as Mortal Kombat. There will be occasionally parts where Superman will come out and, you know, they kind of speak to each other, the two combatants, and they'll say, maybe this has gone too far. And I kind of get that feeling about this archetype. Now I'm just looking at it like, well, damn, Konami, how the fuck are we supposed to beat this? Because as we first learned about Magibullets, I loved it. And then we started learning about some of their spells and traps, and I was like, well, wait a minute, this might actually make... This might make Phantasms completely useless, but now I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, how the fuck are we actually supposed to contend with this deck, man? I think Konami's answer is going to be like, don't worry, you don't have to beat this deck. The ban list will beat it. You guys aren't supposed to beat it. So let's go ahead and look at these two new Magibullet cards that are actually very good, and I think one of them will undoubtedly see play in the main deck. Well, I think it should see play in the main deck. The other one I think is more of a side deck option, especially depending on the matchup. So this is the counter trap. It's called Magibullet Dead Man's Burst. It says, well, the first part is basically a hard once per turn. You can only use one copy of this card per name, and etc., no matter how many copies that you have, much like all the other Magibullet spell and traps. If you control a Magibullet monster and your opponent activates a spell/trap card, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy that card. That is extremely powerful, and it's kind of interesting because when I looked at Magibullets and I kind of saw the makeup and how the deck was going to run, my first impression was this deck is extremely strong, but obviously it's very susceptible to like mass field removal, things like Torrential Tributes and Regeki, Kaiju Interrupted Slumber, Dark Hole. But then Konami gave them a card that basically said no to all of that because now they can be protected from card effects. This card is just another backup option if you don't open with that, or if you don't want to search that. This is a card that can stop those Regekis. It can stop the Dark Hole, the Interrupted Slumber, Torrential. It can also stop counter traps. So if your opponent uses Solemn Strike on one of your dudes, or your opponent uses a Solemn Warning, anything, like, I don't see any reason not to run this. I think that it's also just really big stopping draw cards. Cards like Pot of Desires and Card of the Mias can get your opponent back into the game because those cards create huge pluses and they give your opponent options and they let them dig deeper into their deck. This card is amazing. And again, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Magibullets is already a deck that's pretty hard to take down in battle because you can run Honest and because they have so many cards that can affect stat lines. This card just says no to everything else that you want to do, man. This deck seems like it has everything covered. It has battle suppression, it has effect suppression, now it has spell and trap suppression. Holy Jesus. And then let's look at the other card, which is basically Dp-Ygo on freaking crack. This is Magibullet Dancing Needle. This comes by way of Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization. The other one was from the Italian Yu-Gi-Oh! Group's Facebook page. This one is a normal trap card. Of course, it is the hard once per turn. If you control a Magibullet monster, you can target up to 3 cards in the graveyard, so you can use your own graveyard, but I don't think you probably would. Banish those cards. This is actually really, really strong, and if this card was somehow generic, even if it was a hard once per turn, I have no doubt that like every deck in the game would side deck this card, because you guys know for years people have been playing things like Dp-Ygo and other random shit, Transmigration Prophecy a very long time ago, just of disrupting people's graveyards. Oh, you want to use Call of the Haunted? You want to use Bat to the Front? You want to use Soul Charge? Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Oh, you've got a Fairy Tale Snow that you just activated? Let's go ahead and get rid of that. You've got a Pantheism in the graveyard, Prime Monarch, all of these cards that want to be in the graveyards, Mizukis, etc., etc. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game where the graveyard has just become so important, especially with that grass looks greener, the advent of Raging Tempest. The graveyard is everything to a lot of decks, and Honestly, the fact that Konami has just given us a TCG exclusive zombie archetype that also can dump stuff into the graveyard means this card is just going to see even more play. I think that it's a side deck card because, of course, there will be matchups where they don't really care about the graveyards. You know, like Pendulum decks don't really care about their graveyards, but there will obviously be matchups where this is just a killer to them. And 3 cards is pretty damn big. If it was like 3 monsters, I'd be like, that's okay, but it says 3 cards in the graveyard. Again, I don't think you're ever going to get 3 cards. I don't think you're going to target anything in your graveyard. The fact that it says up to doesn't really make me think that there should be a reason why you'd ever want to banish something in your own graveyard. If you had to do exactly 3 cards, maybe every once in a while you banish like 1 in your graveyard and 2 in your opponent's if they only had like 2 cards. But this is definitely a good card for the side deck. So I don't know. It seems to me that Magibullets are just getting everything that they need to be a extremely strong archetype. What's that card? Ties of the Brethren, guys. Scoop them up, because between this and Counter Fairies, man, definitely going to be a card to look out for. So you guys let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the first counter trap that will be used from the hand. It's going to be scary playing against the deck now because they're going to have a hand of like 4 cards and you're just not even going to know if you can activate something. Like, should I activate this? Should I not? Should I play something in this column? I might end up triggering one of their Magibullet cards. Oh man, you guys let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. This video has been brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audible.com/MegaCapitalG. Over 180,000 titles to choose from on your mobile device. I'm listening to the amazing I Can't Make This Up by Kevin Hart. Link in the description.